Mr. Gerton, does ongoing litigation impact the Fish and Wildlife Service's ability to perform its duties?
It can have an impact on our ability to perform our duties. Yes, Congresswoman.
Okay. And could the time and money that is currently being spent on countless lawsuits filed by activist groups and paying them lucrative attorney's fees be better spent on species recovery?
Congresswoman, we each year develop work plans and set priorities and align the available staff against them. We focus the best we can on mission essential work. We certainly have to have a few people working on the litigation workload.
Litigation impacts your ability to actually focus on species recovery. I mean, I've had that experience in working with Fish and Wildlife. That's fair to say, isn't it?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
Okay. And Ms. Richmond, in your testimony, you mentioned the fact that, quote, the ESA recognizes that timely listing of species is important to achieving the goals of the Act, and for that reason, the Act imposes a 12-month deadline for listing decisions. It also imposes a 12-month deadline for delisting decisions. Isn't that true?
The 12-month deadline for delisting decisions?
Yes, there's a 12-month deadline anytime a petition is filed with the Fish and Wildlife Service for either listing or delisting, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And can you think of any instances where the Fish and Wildlife Service actually complied with that 12-month deadline?
Those deadlines are often honored in the breach for both listing and delisting decisions.
It doesn't happen very often, does it?
It has happened, certainly, but more often than not,
Well, I'll give you our
succeeded.
personal experience in Wyoming. The state of Wyoming filed a petition for judicial review in the Wyoming Federal District Court alleging that the Department of Interior and the Fish and Wildlife Service failed to meet the 12-month deadline for responding to Wyoming's petition to delist the grizzly bear population in the Greater Yellowstone Ecosystem. Now, the Greater Yellowstone grizzly bear has fully recovered for over 2 decades. They've been delisted and relisted twice, in part because radical environmental groups forum shop for activist judges. Stated another way, the Greater Yellowstone grizzly bear is fully recovered and has been for over 20 years. Wyoming has a viable grizzly bear management plan in place to protect the recovered population, yet because of weaknesses in the ESA, they remain listed, thereby making it so that the Fish and Wildlife Service is actually deflecting resources away from species that we actually need to protect as they continue to manage the grizzly bear as a listed species. Deputy Director Gerton, I recently wrote a letter to the Fish and Wildlife Service requesting that it release the 12-month review no later than June 15th, and obviously that date has come and gone. You've already exceeded the 12-month deadline for related to Wyoming's petition to delist. We know that we have a viable grizzly bear management plan in place. We know that the grizzly bear is the population is more than double what the recovery plan requires, and we also know that we have sufficient habitat for the grizzly bear. Why hasn't this 12-month review related to Wyoming's petition been released?
Thank you for your question, Congressman. Just for clarification, we acknowledge the grizzly bear has exceeded its numerical delisting goal. There's 965 bears as the last population.
Well, there's more than that, but go ahead.
The goal was 600. We acknowledge that. But as you're aware, to make that determination, we do the 5-factor analysis. That's the time.
When are you going to finish it?
We are planning to publish a 12-month finding by the end of this month, Congresswoman.
So by the end of July, we're going to have
July 31st, 2024.
By the end of this month, we're going to have the response to the state of Wyoming's petition to delist the grizzly bear.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. That's wonderful. If the judicial review provision in Mr. Westerman's bill were in place when the bear was actually delisted, it would still be delisted today, wouldn't it? Because of the 5-year protection against judicial review that would allow the delisting to go forward, and then we would be able to observe that species for a 5-year period before an activist group such as the Defenders of Wildlife that makes millions and millions and millions of dollars off of the federal government, that 5-year period of time would still be in place. Is that correct?
Congresswoman, I'd have to answer that for the record for you. I don't want to give you an incorrect answer.
Okay. Mr. Gerton, considering the fact that we have over 1,100 grizzly bears in Wyoming, which again is more than double the recovery goals, it is fair to say that if the grizzly bear were petitioned to be listed under the normal ESA process today, it wouldn't be listed at all, would it?
Under that hypothetical, given the current situation, probably not. No, Congresswoman.
Thank you. I have no further questions. I yield back.